Hi everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to an art journal tutorial. So I'm working in my 9 by 12 Canson mixed media journal and I take it out of the coil so I can work on it flat. Now I've stamped on here with a tile corner stamp, a Woodware stamp, and now I'm stamping with wet acrylic paint with this Swirl stamp. Both of these wonderful background stamps can be purchased at NinnysNapkins, and there's a link in the description box below. I just wanted to add some interest to this background. I just wanted to break that page. Now, I couldn't decide what color I wanted. Did I want to go blue? Did I want to go pink? So I decided to go all colors. I'm putting yellow and I'm putting blue. And I'm applying the wet acrylic paint with my fingers. There's a little bit of blending happening, but not much. Just a reminder, there will be a complete recap at the end of the video using my prompt and process cards. Those are also available for purchase now at NinnysNapkins. There is a link in the description box too. So I'm just adding some green here. I didn't want to get too opaque with the paint. That's why you see me wiping back some of the paint. I wanted to see all the marks that I had stamped to break the page. So my goal here was just to have a feast of color. So once this was completely dry, I got out this Tuscan floral stencil from the Crafter's Workshop, and I'm debating whether to stencil with black or with white. And I choose white. So this is white acrylic paint. I'm not using gesso. You could, but gesso is a little thinner and it tends to not be quite as opaque. I'm taping down the stencil because it was just moving a little bit and I wanted to stencil as neatly as possible. I'm also stopping and letting it dry and adding another layer because I do want really good coverage. Loving the look, and I'm just moving that stencil up so I can go right off the page. It wasn't quite big enough, but you can often match it up exactly depending on the stencil or sometimes close enough. Loving the look. Well, now I'm using this Doodle Diva Deb. It's a digi stamp from Elena Zinski Art. There will be a link to her Etsy store. Now I've resized this. The top one is the original size that you get it in, but you can resize hers, and I resized it many ways because I wanted a little more interest in the background. I'm stamping with a script stamp and my word stamp from Woodware just to add more interest and to knock back that white. Then I'm coming in, I'm stenciling in with this mini dot stencil. This is one of Crafter's Workshop's cake and cookie decorator stencils, but I love the scale of these dots. They are now sitting on my desk. They don't get put away in my system because they're just such a good basic one. Stamping a little bit more. I want to build interest. Now I'm drawing a wave with my Stabilo All pencil, and I'm going to paint the center part in black. Now I could have done this in white. I could have done it in a color for that matter. And the reason I'm doing this is I want the focal image, that Doodle Diva Deb, to really stand out, and it would get lost with this background being so busy. by putting this black, and I could have put a circle, I could have put a square, it's giving the focal image something to stand up on. So there's the original size one. It's a little too big for this orientation. And I printed it out in a variety of sizes. And then I played with the orientation. And there's so many possibilities with this. And I know I'm going to use the other sizes. To go with this, I grabbed my BU sentiment pack, and there are so many. Let your light shine, what makes you you makes you different, no one is you, that's your superpower. So I printed off some of these, and again, with my digital sentiment packs, you can shrink them, you can make them bigger, make them fit whatever project you're using. So I've still got a couple of ideas about which sentiment I want to use. But I thought, you know what? I'll save that decision till after I glue down my focal image and colorize it. So I'm using gel medium from the Crafter's Workshop to glue her down. And one, that's an adhesive, and two, I am going to colorize her using my big brush markers that are India ink, I believe. And you need a non-porous surface, and that gel medium is going to turn that paper into a non-porous surface. Now I'm going to come back and use that brush, so I'm just wrapping it in saran wrap. So there's my big brush marker set, and they're movable and blendable a little bit till they dry. So I'm just adding some color. Now I'm not a coloring expert by any means, and you could have done this with acrylic paints. In fact, I do the face, the skin tone, with acrylic paints. I'm trying to use the colors that are in that background so everything works cohesively. Now here I'm taking the blue, adding some red and blending it with a brush, moving it, and it's getting it a darker blue, kind of a navy blue, and that's what I kind of wanted. This was one of those products that, I thought was so great, and they are, but I need to dig them out and use them. So hopefully you'll see me using them a little bit more, and it's a perfect match with the Digi Stamps. Speaking of the Digi Stamp, she also has, there's 5 pages in total. You've got black and white ones. You've got some that are also colored. So that is great because if you don't have the time, you can print them off colored and you have instant focal images. I love this girl. She's just, it was like, I could have put there on there flower power. Some of my ones from Through the Garden Gate sentiments would have worked on this. So these markers are India ink, which means they are permanent when they are dry. So if I put wet medium on top of them, they are not going to move. You can also use them. You can shade over top of a stamp and use them to stamp in the different colors. And here I'm using craft paint that is flesh toned. Now just to add a little bit more interest, I'm shading with black acrylic paint and my angle brush using the floating acrylic technique. So just a reminder, the prompt and process cards are now available for purchase at Ninny's Napkins. The link is in the description box. And you'll see me using those in recaps of my tutorials. So I'm just shading all the different parts, looking at it, what, does it need more? Then I'm outlining with the Sakura glaze pen, putting in back some of the black lines that were covered by paint. Wanted to make the sunglasses a little bit darker, so I'm painting them in. Then I grab my Sakura white bold. It's the number 10 on it. It is permanent when dry. And I start doing some line work, and it just really made this focal image pop. So I just keep going. And that white line work just made it work. And that in combination with the shading I did gives us all the detail that it needs. I start and it was like, okay, this is all I'm going to do. Nope, how about a little bit more? Just adding a little bit of highlighting using the Sakura white. And now I'm just adding dashes on that black. I find when you're using the pen, go a little bit slower. It tends to come out a little more opaque. Now I'm shading or edging the page using the floating acrylic technique. And I will shade under the wave and above the wave as well. Now it's time to finalize the decision with the sentiment pack. Really like this saying, but it doesn't quite fit. That one fits really well. I'm thinking I'm going with that, and then all of a sudden I change my mind. I go, what makes you different makes you. I just thought this just was perfect with the attitude this girl has. And you can see how that black wave really features that. Now you also get these colored doodle flowers with this digi stamp set. So I printed off one in color. I was going to call this page done, and I said, oh, I'm just going to put these down. That one was a little too big. So I'm going with the smaller one, and I like this because the flowers that I have on here are that same color. I'm just going to glue that down with the gel medium. Now I'm taking this off. Now I didn't press my painter's tape on my jeans to take off some of the stick. That's why it was sticking. Now I'm using my Sakura glaze here with black, kind of doodling around the doodle flower. Then I come in with my markers. I wanted it a little brighter. I wanted it to match the rest. It was a little too pastel. So I'm just putting it on and colorizing. And I do go in with the white gel pen as well. So there we have the finished page, and I just love the color. So I started by stamping with a couple stamps and acrylic paint. I applied a base coat of colors, and I couldn't choose, so I used a lot of different bright colors. Then I came in and I stamped and stenciled, but I used black and white. I used that Tuscan floral stencil and some stamps, and then I came in with the dot stencil, but all in black and white. I added the wavy line to give the focal image something so it could stand out, and the sentiment pops. Gave it a backdrop. I used the digital download as a focal image, but I adjusted the size to fit the composition that I wanted. I colorized the digital focal image using my big brush markers. Once I had a non-porous surface with a coated but with gel medium. I outlined with gel pens. I shaded my focal image. I added the sentiment, and I edged the page. Close-ups of the final project are following. Until next time, go get creative.